You're listening to the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast, the podcast that keeps your practice sharp and your clients happy. I'm your host, immigration lawyer John Khosravi, and every week we're bringing you insights, tips, and real-world conversations with top immigration attorneys and industry leaders. Whether you're here to grow your practice, stay on top of the latest trends, or get inspired, you're in the right place. Ready? Let's go. Hello, fellow Toolboxers. Welcome to episode number 432 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast. This is a really good one. It's longer, about an hour long, but Ruby Powers and I are regular monthly guests. Ruby Powers, I go over a lot of information to help you make you a better attorney and better business practitioner when it comes to the immigration space, highlighting updates that are happening in the legal field for how things are working, but also based on her conferences, she's gone to like every conference there is in the last 2 months, and also going through the AILA Pulse survey, important notes there about practice issues that immigration lawyers see, and we talk about it and share a lot of information. So really a must listen to, and it's a lot of fun. I think you'll enjoy this one. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, email me. Let me know, hey, I like this one, or I didn't like that one, or let me know your thoughts about any particular topic that we talked about, what was missed, so we can add it to the program and share more knowledge that comes from our base of audience, our huge audience that we have of immigration practitioners in this space. I do want to thank our sponsor for this podcast and the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine issue number 10, which is out. Check it out. Go to immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com, click on the magazine link, and check out issue number 10 and previous issues as well. We have so much information, and we're preparing issue number 11. If you have a topic for an article, please let me know. Send it my way. We'll get you published in the next issue. So, are you shopping for an immigration law software? Don't let shiny demos cloud your judgment. Before you choose a platform, ask the questions that really matter about security, support, and the fine print. Immigration's free checklist, 25 questions to ask before choosing immigration law software, gives you the exact prompts to cut through sales, spin, and get real answers. Save yourself time, headache, and buyer's remorse. Find it at offers.eimmigration.com/vendor-QA. It's a long one. I wish they gave an easier one. offers.eimmigration.com/vendors hyphen or dash Q as in Queen A. Courtesy of eimmigration. We'll have a link in the show notes for you so you can grab that there. Now, I also want to mention our private community page on circle.so. It's like a Facebook, but a lot more. And we're hitting almost, I think, 400 or maybe 500 immigration lawyers in our group. All you got to do to register, join, and we have discussion pages. We answer questions, free CLE videos. They can access about R1 visas, 3 or 10-year bar, 245I, study all that, and much more higher end kind of like expertise level stuff. And our courses are there too, our premium courses on E2 visas, EB1A, marriage green card systems, how to start your marriage immigration practice, which I have full, mentorship, all that kind of stuff with it. If you're interested in that, just email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com to get more. Our website has a landing page that gets into it too at immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. Check that out. But having said all that, none of the information provided here is intended as individual legal guidance. Please consult with an attorney, but y'all know that already. Let's get it started. Hi, Ruby. Thanks for coming on the show again.
Yeah, John, it's always a pleasure. Great to see you.
So let's jump into, you've had a busy month and a half since we last talked. You went to the Mid-South Conference for AILA. You went to the Lex Summit in Utah. Let's talk about the Lex one. I'm kind of more interested on that one. I have an idea probably what happened.
There's some other ones. There's a lot, actually. So.
You're living on a plane.
I don't know if
Let me know if you
could.
Yeah, what were they? Yeah, so chronologically, because each one of these have tidbits information. So which one do you go first if you can remember the order?
All right. The order was, we had the Tech Summit for AILA at the fall conference in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was September 11th and 12th. Actually, it was the 11th was the tech, and the 12th they did the law practice management. And I helped organize a dinner with some attorneys and vendors on the 10th. And we had a nice reception that ended the Tech Summit on the 11th. So that was that one. And then
I think our last interview was right before he left for there. So how did it go? Who are the winners at the Tech Summit?
The spotlight, everyone's a winner, but we had about 8 companies that were recognized. Everything from Querius, which is a client intelligence communication mechanism, to when you're having consultations, to Next Reason, to about with bots and social media, to Unfold. There was various ones, and we have that list on the AILA website from that conference. But it was great to see all that innovation. In fact, even a company that I had helped give advice for, but I didn't realize had did a demo. It was quite fascinating. It was just exciting to see everyone, all the different vendors and people getting more excited about AI. So overall, it was great. And there was in the other tracks were like advanced employment, and there was also like advanced removal family. And then on the second day, there was the law practice management tracks. I still need to go watch everything. I didn't watch because I was you can only be in one place at one time. Still haven't mastered that exactly, but at least it was recorded. So if anybody wants to go back and see it, they can pay for it and watch.
And
But definitely great.
this was before the calm before the storm, before the H-1B fine came in and our fee fine. So it
Uh,
was like a week before that. So people
yes.
are like, Look what kind of said he's gonna drop in next week." So you went there. What happened after the tech conference or the AILA?
So that was really great. And then I think I had some breathing room. And then soon after, I went to Charleston, South Carolina for case status, had their CX Summit. And it was their inaugural conference. So case status is similar in like the HONA in the respect of the client experience software. And so what that means is sometimes people consider it like the pizza tracker of legal experiences. So what they
Mhm.
do is they're an add-on to your case management software, and some of them have like most of them have portals. And what they're trying to do is create a better client experience, like notifying the client what's going on. It's a portal of a way to communicate. So I don't know exactly about the functionality of both the two, but for case status, they've really been focusing on that client experience. And so the idea is that you can have the no update or the update of what's going on, and they also came out with a report. It was really fascinating. Like a lot of the law firms are not keeping track of how long it takes for them to respond to communication. We say how long we will take, but how long
Yeah.
do we, but most firms are not tracking how long they're actually taking. And then they also said, I think it was like 7% of firms actually do the net promoter score request where they actually say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely would you recommend us? But then a majority of Fortune like 500 or 100 companies do that. And the idea is that the happier the client is, the more likely they're going to recommend. And then that referral business it's awesome. It's gravy. And so the, that I enjoyed that conference because it was in a place I'd never been at a conference before. I
Yeah.
got to hang out with Bob Ambrogi as well, and so that was fun. He was there covering the conference, and then also just some really inspirational speeches, and I just really liked the vibe that Key Status had of just really caring about, client experience. And what's also interesting, I have it here. Andy Sievers, the CEO, wrote this book called Future Firm, Fossil Firm. So I'm still getting through that. I'm going to have him on my podcast, but it's a lot about the client experience and leveraging technology to improve. So those are some of my big takeaways from that conference.
You know that client response time is like my number one thing I worry about, and that's we make a big deal. My firm is so
Really?
small, and I get CC'd on
Yeah.
everything, so I manually will save something. If the next day it doesn't have a response to it, and it always does, so I haven't had to, but I crack down heavily. But as you grow, it's not going to be possible for one person to keep, unless you have a case manager that does it. But it's super. I'm glad they have an importance to that because it really is the client experience. That the number one complaint people have about their lawyers is that they don't respond to them or they don't respond in time. That's like the biggest issue with bar complaints. All that and drug abuse issues for lawyers. The lack of response is something that's like a pet peeve of mine too. I hate it when I go to doctors, they'll take them forever to get lab results, or they have you wait in the room and you're like waiting for 2 hours, someone to come in. That stuff annoys the worst out of me. Like I'm like my firm, we have to do that. But when it comes to the net score you talked about, like you're right that a lot of the big companies use that, and it probably is something going to it. But do people just take that seriously, or is it more annoying to people to get that? What are your thoughts on using that kind of score system?
I don't think that a lot of firms have a mechanism that they're requesting that they're doing that survey. And I think they're not, I think a lot of firms are not collecting data of the response time. I don't think they're collecting like of the completion of time of their matters. And I think that's one thing. But then the other part is that I think they're not requesting like the net promoter score. And so they're just not it's not built into the way we do things. And I think that's
Yeah.
what I love about what Keystas is trying to say. Why don't we do that? And why don't we change the way we look at things? And so one of their takeaways from that, you can just go to the 2025 legal client experience report. just like how Clio does the Clio legal trends, so they do this too. And they're saying that there's this the average law firm is falling short of the client expectations, not due to the lack of care, but because they're relying on outdated tools to fight, they say, modern battles. And that there's this perception gap between what attorneys say that their firm is caring, but the clients thinking that they're caring. And I think a combination of it is we're not keeping track of the certain data, but then we're also, I think clients don't know all the stuff we do behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and we're maybe doing a bad job communicating how much what we're doing. If we're quiet, they think we're not doing anything, but we
Yeah.
still could be doing stuff behind the scene.
We
We
had
are. Yeah.
Yeah, it just sorry, I had to jump, but we have 2 cases recently that were fixed rate marriage adjustment cases that just blew up in a lot of
Mhm.
work that we didn't charge for. We keep track of our time on it though. I'm gonna send them an invoice. It's like those medical bills that come says this is not a bill. But even though the case is done, they got the green card. I want them to see we did like $20,000 in legal work, charged at their flat rate, but it just
Wow.
blew up. And we
Yeah.
should have now I realize I should have charged them hourly afterwards because it's additional work. But I'm changing my mechanism where like interview preparation, all this, I'm gonna charge more for that, whereas I do it for free. But I'm gonna send it to the client so that the fact they know how much work we're doing behind the scenes and we're just diddly daddling and like how much free stuff we gave him. So he's wow, this bill dude. I'm not sure how it's gonna come off per se, but I'm like, might as well just send it because it'll let my frustration out because they built so much time without getting any benefits from it.
Yeah, if it's done tastefully, I think
Yeah, that's the
that
key,
it'll help
tastefully, yeah.
I think that it can help demonstrate how much you care. And that number I remember I was mentioning was only apparently according to the report, only 7% of law firms track the net promoter score, but yet 66% of Fortune 1000 companies measure it. So if you think about how often you're asked like, would you recommend us? Can you give us a review? Blah, 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 like from big companies,
I always get
but law
annoyed when I
firms,
get
you
those.
barely
When I
do
get
that.
yeah,
No, I
when I go to
know.
card, like
Yeah.
the Volkswagen to get my car repair or even with our softwares that we use. Every time I communicate with them, they'll send me an email, "How'd you did?" And I just like, ignore it. But I guess if you're unhappy, you would say you're unhappy. So that's a way for them to try to solve the issue. And if they're really happy, they'll mark
Right.
it, and that way you know who your happy clients are. Like, you'd ask for reviews and refer more. You get a better understanding of your clients that way.
I think one of the things I find with a lot of lawyers is that we only wait till the case. I think back in the day, it was like we waited till the whole case was done to ask for a review. But I think that's, first of all, too late to really see
That's what I
how
do.
you're doing.
Yeah.
And no, I know, but then also maybe they're just happy with your consult, or maybe they're happy
Yeah.
midway after they've been onboarded. And if they're just really upset, like it's really hard to fix things if they're already at the angry late night, I'm going to write a bad review stage. It's really hard to correct that. But if you catch them like, that rubbed me the wrong way, and then you try to address it, then there's more of a chance to solve it. And I think one of the other takeaways I had from that report was just, it is what I was mentioning, but I got the numbers in front of me. It says 35% of the firms measure response time, only 35%, so one third. And then 25% measure the case resolution time, like how long it actually takes to get the case resolved. So that's really not a lot if you think about it. So anyway, I'm just wanted to mention those. That was a really great conference. And
I'm
I
gonna
also
take
heard some
away.
people talking about the AI reception bot when there was a lot of PI firms there. That was my other thing. Yeah. Anyway, what
That's
were
the
you gonna
best
say?
place to learn from other practice areas brings immigration on the last on the list to figure out what's going on. So if you jump ahead, PIs, a lot of money, real estate people, a lot of times like we're just so caught up in dealing with memos, proclamations and stuff. The business aspect is lost on because it's less of a hustle for money
I
in immigration, more of a
I
like
want to give us a little bit
yeah,
more props for being there. We're very flat fee oriented. A lot of the other practice areas are like scurrying to get back to get to
yeah.
flat fee. So in some respects,
That's,
I don't think we're at the back of the line, but it does
but there's
keep my eyes
yeah,
open to
for
be around
sure.
those other practice areas. Yeah.
When it
Yeah.
comes to AI adoption, for example, in the last issue of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine, I have a quote for I can't remember the person who said it, so I'll leave it at that. But I gave a citation, and she made a survey that said immigration lawyers are the highest AI adoption there is. But then the survey said immigration lawyers are lagging behind other fields. So I have mixed data on where like immigration lawyers are with this adoption. But they are freewheeling immigration. Between you and us, we know like the people are really into it and it's getting newest technology and getting into it. So yeah, there are people, but the large chunks of the process are still like manually done.
I know we're still doing a walkthrough of my chronological conference
Yeah.
schedule,
But I
but
want to
just
mention though that yeah.
recently, okay,
But but
I
with
have an
regard to
interesting
that
stat about that. Yeah, go
asking for
ahead.
reviews, Nadine Heisler, she had said she'll ask for reviews and user experience after the consultation itself. I'm like, well, she just gets it in
Oh,
early. And so that's one. But
mhm.
I'm gonna actually do this. I have to have sort of tasteful system right after the
Mhm.
consultation, give an experience survey right after onboarding. So that way it'll help me because like from my perspective when I'm doing it, I don't know if users are gonna I think it's like when an engineer tries to make a tool for an immigration lawyer and they make these clunky things. Like, no, you're not the user. You don't know how to use how it's gonna look. So after consultation, after onboarding, after case submission, send a survey report, and maybe I'll get one piece of feedback that'll smoothen it out or bad experience they had so we could get that out of the way. Because most people don't mention if they have bad results. So if you get one person, that represents 10 people that have problems. So that's really a takeaway. That's really important. I'm going to start input in our firm.
I think what they suggest is to do one after the consultation and maybe after the onboarding, maybe somewhere in the middle and somewhere at the end
Yeah.
so that you can gauge how things are going. And like you said, maybe you just start out with a few cases and then you see, is it too much? Is it too little? How
Yeah.
would you word it? But I think the idea with these client experience type of legal tech is that they're trying to automate it so that once you set it up, it makes it easier. And the idea is that then you're not having to do so much more hand holding or following up because it's more automated. And when it's in your case management software, like it just changes from one status to the next questionnaire sent. Okay, then what's the next step? And then it automates it and it can automate the emails and the links to videos. Like, for example, onboarding a client with a video. Thank you for joining the Power Slot group. Now, here is how we communicate. And I like that too because people learn differently. People learn
Yeah.
audio, written. We're our clients, like I've said this like a lot. Like we have different clients from different countries, different cultures, different tech languages, and then dealing with different trauma levels as well. So the way they need to be communicated to
Very true.
differs, I think, more greatly than a lot of other practice areas.
That's great. Yeah, because we have a video and now the transcript underneath. Because I like to skim through what they're saying really fast. Video will slow me
Mhm.
down. So, but some people like watching the video and too. So that's might be easier that way too. So it's good to have that kind of
Yeah.
onboarding kind of thing.
Yeah. It's funny because my assistant, "Here's the video that you missed, and here's a ChatGPT summary of the transcript in case you don't wanna watch the video and you want the short version." I was like, "Thank you, that was so nice of you."
Okay, cool. So that was Case Status CX Summit, and then what came
Yes.
next?
What came next was that I went to Utah for a long time. I went there from Sunday to Thursday for the Filevine Lex Summit. And it was great because I was learning more about what their updates were with the Filevine. I was one of 6 podcasters to interview some of the Filevine employees in their podcast room. So that was an honor. I interviewed the VP of products. And there were a lot of updates with AI and drafting tools. And what's that guy's name from Better Call Saul? He was I got to see him on the stage. I like that guy. They had some keynotes and stuff like that. But it was great to just compare notes about how some of the new products that Provine's coming out, and also they're coming out with an e-filing soon, and just like continuing to expand their client portal. There's a lot of good benefits from going to that conference. It just that what they do at Filevine's conference is they have a base camp like, on day 1, and they did it, like, bookending at the end, and the days in the middle were a lot of different speeches on different topics, from
Mhm.
sustainability to resilience that I spoke on to, like, marketing, and it's even if you didn't use Filevine, you could still get a lot of benefit from some of the content that was there. That's what I did at the end of the and I saw the Turnpike Troubadour Turnip I should know this. It's the Turnpike Troubadours. It's a band. They played as there as well.
Oh, is that the band
Um,
or is that a music band?
yeah, it's a country music band from
Okay.
Oklahoma that they brought in to play.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
I had never heard of them before, but they're pretty good, actually. So, then the following week, my goodness, I must be getting a lot of miles. I went to the ABA Law Practice Division meetings and in Philadelphia, and our primary goal I had was to work on the ABA Tech Show for March 2026. Wow. And so we were putting a lot of the speaker suggestions together. What's going on? What topics do we need to cover? And so that's what I was doing there. It wasn't more like a conference, it was more of like a meetings. The ABA does that a lot. And so that's how we get a little bit more done, I think more productive coming in person. And then the following week, I went to Ohio to the AILA Ohio conference. and I spoke on ethics in AI and media. It was fun. We squished those topics together. Well, they wanted ethics, and then they wanted AI, and they wanted media. Boop, let's put it together. And the way I had a co-panelist, but the way we helped merge it was we talked about like deep fakes in the middle. I was like, that sort of makes sense with AI and media. So anyway, that was a really good conference. It was like a day or a day and a half long, but I had never been to Columbus before. But they're very similar issues that they're dealing with. I learned that they're hearing of Stokes interviews for marriage-based interviews are coming along, which I think we had one recently here in Houston. They also were talking about the delays with the U visa. My U visa expert was telling me now we expect about a 20-year delay if you file now, which I was like, I thought I was saying 15 years. Now we're up to 20. My goodness.
4 or 5 months for a
We
receipt right now on a U visa. That still hasn't come.
That's true. That's true. The
Yeah.
receipts are taking a long time as well. And then there was like another more talk about the habeas because that's a hot topic everywhere.
Yeah.
They're like we're starting to file them as well at my law firm. It was just like a good summary of what the hot topics were. It was a dual track conference and they had it over Zoom and in person. But I was honored to go to Ohio, and so that was Ohio. And then last week, which was my marathon, and now I'm in one place for a little while, was Central Florida's chapter conference, and I spoke twice on October 22nd. Now, they started on the 22nd and they went all the way till I think Saturday. So that is quite intense for a chapter to have a 3.5 day long conference with and on one of the days they had 3 tracks going. I'm very impressed by them, very
Wow.
impressed. But Nicholas,
Yeah, I saw his pictures. You're
me
on the same panel together, yeah.
yeah. So he and I were on like a client experience panel on in the morning. We started the conference off. I didn't even realize we were the first ones, but he's great. And I leaned in a lot of what I'd learned from the case status conference. So that was good to have that data. And then I think one of my takeaways from some of our discussions was just like how we need to be comfortable in the unknown and
Yeah.
that some of our consultations are going all over the place because we wanna talk about all the crazy different scenarios that could exist, but I'm like, "But we only have so much time to go from what are your options and how can we help you?" We don't have a lot of time to go into the counseling through the all the uncertainty and all the scenarios that could possibly happen. And so I
Yeah.
think this is where we're also feeling as practitioners in immigration, we're struggling because we want to give them more certainty, we want to give them more peace of mind, but we don't know it. And as someone said, and it sounds a little like condescending, but I let me go pull out my crystal ball. And
Yeah.
we don't have crystal balls and we're trying to do the best we can. And I'm like,
Yeah, I had a
even today
consult
coming
right
back
now where
to
I'm like,
my yeah,
technically, if you do this, it's okay, but the president's president. Next week, they may change the rules. So he like, or the embassy could
right.
just not care at consular processing, make mistakes. So he's like, what if this happened? I'm like, we have to see why it's denied. I don't think technically it should be approved this case on consular processing or visa, but anything's possible, and we have to deal with it when it comes because like they can just make up stuff. Overall, make up stuff, make mistakes. Really, I've seen that happen. They want more certainty, but it's like there's no certainty. No, none of the administrations in the world, like the wars to the finances to the government shutdowns. There's no certainty anywhere.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm saying to people is in a normal world or currently
Yeah, six
or
months ago, yeah,
before January 2025, yeah, as a pre-qualifier to
yeah,
whatever I'm going to say. But that it was therapeutic, I think, to talk to other attorneys to see how they were looking at things. And the second panel I was on that day was it was building a sustainable law firm, and it was Ian Almasi, Rustin Hurd, and Katie Vanucci from Chicago. And it was really great, honestly, because everyone brought something to the table. Like Rustin's interviewed 1,000 people or something like that, and Katie's the primary shareholder for a 53-year-old firm in Chicago, and Ian's really big in the operations organizations. Together, sharing our ideas and how to get through all these difficult times. And what I loved also about that conference was they gave us an hour and 15 minutes, so we got an hour to talk and like 15 minutes to do Q&A sort of. So it's a lot longer than a typical 1 hour slot. And so that was great. And then I got to go to the speakers dinner later that night, which was awesome because I always miss it because the law practice management is always on Saturday. And I
Yeah.
finally got to meet the other speakers. There was a handful of former government employees who are now in the private space, and that's actually multiple ones, like former judges and former
Hmm.
USCIS executives that are now amongst us, and so that's the other trend I'm seeing now at the conferences I'm attending, and they're getting into either teaching courses on, like, court prep, or they're also doing, like, consulting and helping give advising of what's going on behind the scenes and how best to navigate. And so I think that's exciting right now, and we should lean into all that support we can get. And so then the next day, I flew to Nashville for the Mid South Conference. And I know I'm getting
Wow.
to the end of it. This is the last conference
That's
in this
incredible.
order.
Do you take one airline? Do you do the miles thing or just get whichever airline?
I stick to United for the most part, but it just made sense to do Southwest last week. So I flew from Houston to Florida to Nashville to Houston. And the irony is, I literally landed on Friday night in Nashville and I bumped into a friend from the Valley or our Valley, Texas Valley in Harlingen. It was like 10 o'clock on a Friday night. I was like, hey, Omar, what's up? And then the next morning, I flew to Kansas City for my cousin's wedding. I somehow am an A-lister on Southwest, and I hadn't even flown it in, I don't know, several months. But anyway, Nashville was great. Never been there before. Mid-South kicked butt as well, just like Central Florida, and to dual track. They had a lot of like former judges speaking as well. They had the employment updates, and they had like removal and family and just I was really happy because I got to talk about resilience, and that's my pet project talk right now, and just like how we can overcome these difficult challenges and leaning into how we think reflecting on what we've overcome before and a lot of different good tactics from taking care of ourselves, self-care, resilience in our team, and building a great culture, and then building in systems with our organization. And so anyway, that's my I don't know. I know I'm crazy a lot of times, but it hit me. I was like, "What? Should I turn this into a book?" I don't know. But anyway, don't tell my family that because I think I have a moratorium on writing books for another few years. But I don't know. I was just really passionate because speaking about it it was like I was talking to myself, like, we can do this. Like, I can do this.
We
And so
have a
I think we
colleague.
need
Yeah.
more of these positive stories. We need these more inspiration how we're going to get through all these times.
In your new book, at the beginning, one of our colleagues wrote a note that she has her own book. I can't recall her name. I think
Esperanza?
Esperanza. She published a book about
Yeah.
some topic like that, didn't she?
Emotional intelligence. Yeah, exactly. No, she's great. She spoke at my class real recently, and I kid you not, like, multiple students told me she was no offense to my other guests, but she was their favorite one. They don't talk about the students were like, "They don't talk about this in law school." Yeah, her book's called The Emotionally Intelligent Lawyers: How to Navigate the Psychological Implications of Becoming a Lawyer.
Yeah.
Good pluck for her. I think what I have in mind is like a merger of lots of things from a little bit of that as well as law practice management. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna do it, but it just occurred to me. It was a fleeting thought, and I think I'm just gonna keep expanding this speech that I'm excited
Yeah,
about.
that's a good way to do it. Wow, that's incredible. Heads up on Southwest. I usually United too because my phone gives me free internet, so I like
Huh?
prefer United. And they have a hub here in LA, but
Oh,
we
okay.
went to Virginia Southwest and 6 people, tickets were like 125 per person round trip. And I'm like, "That's gotta be a fluke." And so, like, last night I was on Southwest website, like, anywhere in America, you go for like $100, $115, like, round trip. I'm like, Southwest is burning through the money." I'm like, I'm not sure how cheap it's gone, but I'm like, if y'all gonna do a vacation, if it wasn't so close to the winter, I would've gone to Chicago to take the family there, but it's gonna be too cold over there. Hey, I want to jump in really quick to remind you about our private community page, circle.so. If you're a lawyer in the United States, US barred lawyer, you don't have to be an immigration lawyer. A lot of people are trying to be immigration lawyers. It's a great place to start. And if you're an expert already, it's a great place to come and share your expertise. But also, there's even more expertise that you can gain. And that's what our goal is at the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. So if you want to join, go to immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com, click on the community page, and we'll go to a registration page that you can put your bar info so we can see if you're actually a lawyer or you're a barred lawyer. And we'll add you to the group and get you started. let's get back to the show.
So I'm my other thing I'm trying to get into is like travel hacking so I can figure all this out between the
The
lounges
amount of
and the
travel you're
points and
doing.
everything. Yeah, seriously. I
Yeah.
told my EA, I was like, "Go figure this out. We got it. What's my next credit card supposed to be?" I don't know. But yeah, I didn't know I was an A-lister on Southwest, and then somehow I got free internet. I don't know. Is that what you get? I was like, "Yay, I didn't pay $8 like I do on United."
Yeah.
And because I'm almost always getting the internet on the flight on whenever I fly, because 1 or 2 hours to just cram some work in to
Well, I'm on
pretend like I wasn't
T-Mobile.
traveling that
Eh,
day.
I have a family
Yeah,
account on
it was
T-Mobile's.
T-Mobile.
Yeah, so we get
Yeah.
free internet on United for they limit it now 5 or 6 trips a year, but
Oh, okay.
are you a T-Mobile
Well,
customer
anyway,
as well?
no, I have
Okay.
Verizon, which is a funny story. The place I went to, this wedding was in the middle of nowhere in Missouri, and everybody who had T-Mobile didn't have reception, but Verizon we did. So they were like, "Take a picture of this map so that you can get back to civilization." And we're like, "Oh, oh no." And then we got in the car and we're like, "Oh wait, our phones still work. Thank goodness." Anyway, so
Wow, so
God
there's
forbid
so
we
much
live
talk.
without internet.
Yeah, no, it'd be a catastrophe going back to 1990. But sometimes recently, especially because my kids are so hooked on the internet that I'm like, I wish we go back to get rid of phones. The technology is getting on my
Yeah.
nerves now at this point.
I think that's another trend that's going on is, like, people wanting to go back in the day.
Mhm.
I know you originally wanted to ask me about the AILA practice pulse, right?
We're gonna get there right now because I just one thing is because you mentioned because you're posting pictures of the conferences and online. I've been
Uh-huh,
seeing them. I wish I could go too. And but what I've seen is it probably has to do with people being so frustrated. It's good to get together, but and there's so much need for information. But the local chapter conferences are really popping across the country as opposed to just the national one, which is always a lot of fun. But it seems like local chapters are becoming bigger. As you said, Florida did a almost like a national event, 3.5 days and people are attending. There's a lot of demand, and people are like, just need to get out and see people and learn and just let loose with all the stress you're going. So definitely, I'm going to be speaking with Nicholas actually at the first thing at the California chapters in Long Beach, California, November
nice.
13ish, I think, or something like that. But I'm sure it's going to be a big
Uh-huh.
blast too. But it's if you can make it, come to California.
Okay. I'm taking spoken for until early December for right now, but yeah, I've got something mid-November in Austin, but that's exciting. I bet you and Nicholas will be a blast to
Yeah.
listen to.
Okay. So I have parts of the pulse that I've circled here that I want to bring up. I
Okay,
brought it up with Roman, but he
let's
doesn't have a
nerd out.
practice. So one thing they said is when they're going over marketing activities for immigration lawyers, one of
Oh,
the
yeah.
lowest thing that people do, only 1% do, are freemium offerings like white papers, do-it-yourself online forms, etc. I'm big on the white papers and guides that are like I have a 70-page marriage guide. I just published a 50-page citizenship guide. And really people email me saying, I just use your guide to do it. Now it's a disclaimer, this is not individual legal guidance. But they end up leaving me
Uh-huh.
reviews, and 1 out of 100 hires us probably. But I was surprised. Do you give any freemium offerings or anything like that? I'm guessing
So
1%
I
only
see
do. I
that
guess
too.
you
I've
don't.
got
Yeah.
the page 62
No,
for those following
see,
along.
one
Or
negative I gotta say, they didn't put page numbers on the printouts, so like it was on the PDF probably.
oh,
My pet peeve is
okay.
people don't
Yeah,
put
on
page
the
numbers on things.
no,
So I
there are
printed it.
page numbers on the mega one. There is.
I'm
So
sorry,
we
I
do
gotta retract that. Yeah,
webinars.
here, 50 page. Okay, so they have this pulse thing. It makes it hard to see what the number is. It's 61, then there's a heart pulse,
Oh,
and like I can't see that. Okay.
yeah,
Yes,
that's
page
right. It
61 and
blends in.
62.
I guess the short answer is we do stuff like with the webinar. I just told my marketing assistant today, I was like, we need to have a lead magnet. We need to have everything from alternatives to H-1B to maybe what to do if you're detained or something like
Yeah.
that. It's been on our to do. We probably could whip one out really quickly. We just haven't put it out there. But we are doing a lot of free things between the social media, the lives, and the webinars. But I think they delineated that in another line
Yeah, actually,
item
yeah, there's
on
like
the
free
list.
consults, free in-person seminars, free webinars. They took these out.
Yeah.
The freemium is not it doesn't really gather. We're too limited the way they put it. But I'm
Mhm.
gonna do an I-751 guide, and then when people go on my website, I have it pop up because like most of our cases are marriage, I-751 citizenship. So it's like we have these three guides if you want to download them right off the bat, and then have them be able to go to the website. So hopefully they can download and capture more emails that way too.
Yeah. No, that's really good. What I t when I was on the list, I checked off everything we did, and we really did most of the things on the marketing list. The only thing is we didn't do free consults. I don't really do client surveys, which I just spoke about them. I should
Yeah,
do them, but I don't
that's a good one.
technically do them. We don't have a private social media group, and We don't do newspapers and periodical articles. I just don't see a lot of value in the print.
No, not anymore.
Yeah. I've experimented in the past or like ethnic press, they say. And yeah. So
Some people
anyway,
make a
but
big
for the
business just off
majority of
that.
them, I
Yeah.
had to check.
The
Yeah.
social
But I
media
think
private.
the point is,
Go ahead.
yeah, the point is find what works for you. That's really what it is. It's not one size fits all. Like everyone needs to figure out what works for them. Yeah.
So like the private social media group, I tried doing that to build it out, but there's a lot of wasted questions there. You have to moderate it, it's all this kind of stuff, and you got to get people in it. So
Yeah.
I wasn't into it. But one thing that's booming hidden is like WhatsApp, private WhatsApp groups where lawyers are doing it. And some
Mm,
people are
mhm.
killing it like that. They'll just make a WhatsApp group, ethnic ones particularly, like your Iranians that do lawsuits or your Chinese F1 students trying to figure it out. They'll have these groups with a lawyer in there and they're quickly answering questions and stuff. And they're making whole books of business based on that. I personally hate answer questions like that kind of format, so I'm not into it. But if you're down with typing with
Uh-huh.
your thumbs and being in these groups, these WhatsApp private groups are for a period of time. Private Facebook groups were killing it, but then Facebook, they control who gets so much information. It's so hard to get anywhere on Facebook. But WhatsApp seems to be something that's booming that people are using.
Yeah, I agree with that, and we haven't really gotten hardcore into that, but I am on other WhatsApp groups for immigration attorneys or parents or something like that. My whole school has a whole thing for
Yeah.
all the different grades and all the different
There's just
organizations.
so many of them. Your
Yeah,
phone's always like buzzing with different
I
things,
know.
and you can't do this.
What I need to do is I need to figure out how my EA who's in another country can see my phone and like all the chats. Like there's so many chat anyway.
Chat WhatsApp did create a website version of WhatsApp where on the phone, it gives you a barcode and you put it in front of your camera or your computer or something that connects them. Used it
So I
once.
love that. Like I love that, but I don't have an iPhone, so I don't or in a Mac, so I don't have that my text. And so all the text I get, like my EA can't get them. So if somebody texts me and it's really more of an email or a phone call or my assistant could
Yeah.
do something, it's like annoying me because I have to screenshot it, send it to her.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway, I think sometimes people think that like by texting me, they're gonna get a
Yeah.
faster answer, but it not necessarily works that way.
Yeah, that's what like
And
people
anyway,
call, and I'm like, the most efficient way for us is go to the website to do it because when you call, I got to go do this. It adds extra step for us where our system's designed. So the website
yeah.
actually gives the fastest response. Okay, so next one is when it comes to written engagements. This is page 49. Written engagement
Okay.
agreements 2025. 81% of people give written agreements signed by both the client and attorney. We have it where we send for e-signing, where just the other side. I just consider that an offer, and we don't sign it on our end, but the client signs it just to
Yeah,
lessen the back and forth. But 3% of people listed that they only do verbal disclosures. Although 3%
I
isn't much,
know.
that blew my mind that a lawyer would do just a verbal disclosure. It should be a 0%. That's like massive malpractice right there. So, I couldn't believe that stat.
Yeah, I think I did the math of, like, how many people filled this out so we could figure out what 3% is, but yeah, and that's no bueno, people. We need to have something in writing. So, yeah, I agree, that was an outlier, but kudos to the 81%
Yeah.
who have a written agreement and signed by both the client and the attorney.
And then next level of that, just fine tuning that agreement, which we're constantly doing to carve out stuff when it comes to particularly like RFEs, government errors, shutdowns, this and that. So we like try to control like what the scope of the services are in a way that people can understand it and not get shocked. But it's just constantly every 6 months, every year going over that contract because I'll even find typos in there every once in a while when I do it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't catch that. One thing I did do, I was talking with one of these third party vendors who finds paralegals for you, immigration paralegals. I won't name the name. They're a nice company. Everyone likes them, but their contract was so super one-sided, I couldn't work with them. But I'll tell you offline later who it is.
Mm,
But it was like 10 pages, and I reviewed the main stuff I look at, but then I uploaded ChatGPT, and it highlighted like that disclaimer that said even like willful violations, we're not reliable for it. I'm like, what kind of crazy one-sided stuff is that? It was like intentionally do like fraud against me. No, how could you put that in your contract? And like then I'm like, oh wow, like ChatGPT caught that, and I wouldn't have. So then I asked, is this the
mm.
good contract, the bad contract? What do you think? And they're like, this is the good parts, the bad parts. So then I uploaded my own contract and I'm like, I'm a client. Is this a good contract? Is the lawyer trying to take advantage of me? Ask ChatGPT. And luckily, everything said was good. It just said you should negotiate a flat fee for the RFE. But I'm like, I'm not going to negotiate. I don't know what the RFE is going to be. I can't do a flat rate. But it was interesting. It said I'm like a fair contract. And then as a lawyer, I said, hey, what should I do? And it said these two sections aren't clear. You could define it better or write it better so like, people can understand it better. So it was really helpful to use the AI to review my contract to just make it more easily just see with perspective of the client because we don't know. We're like lawyers. We think about our own interests to a certain extent on these. What would a client's interest be based on what the AI would say and get seeing that perspective?
Yeah, no, I agree. I've heard a lot of people say that they're using AI tools to review contracts and the fine print to get a good idea of what just to distill it down and then go deeper from there. We're all busy, and I
Mhm.
think that's a good tactic. And also, there was another speaker at the Lex conference that I really enjoyed, and her name was Vanessa Van Edwards, and her book is called Cues. And she was talking about how you can be more charismatic. And so there were some ways to be more charismatic. And I forgot exactly what she said, but what we were going to do was we were going to put some of our communication to our clients through ChatGPT or some other AI tool to see how charismatic and warm. And it was, I think
Yeah.
it was like warm and confident it was. But anyway, you just made me think about that. I really enjoyed this speaker as well. This
I
book.
think I've
Yeah.
seen her
Anyway.
interviews online, YouTube interviews with her. So she's in a lot of clips of her
Oh
coming
yeah.
out. Yeah, it's good. The one thing on my to-do
Oh,
list is
okay.
ask ChatGPT how I can be more charismatic speaker and add more humor to my talk. So when I give a talk, I start with a
Uh-huh.
joke or something lighthearted, or even on the show, I have more humor in it because I've noticed there's people that I see videos and interviews online and they have like terrible ideas and like even mean people, but they add so much humor in their conversation that it keeps you engaged and laughing and stuff. So it's so important. Humor could
They have
like
terrible ideas, but people still listen to them.
yeah, I'll be listening. I'm like, this person, what is this guy saying? But he's funny, so I'm gonna listen to it.
Okay, so I do remember it was warmth and competence is your charisma dial. And so you're more charismatic if you have warmth and competence. If you just have one or the other, then you're not as charismatic. So anyway, highly suggest this book. I'm reading multiple books at the same time, but when I see these like speakers, I'm like, oh, that
Yeah,
sounds so good. Anyway,
it's such an important skill.
all right, what
I mean,
else
especially with AI
caught your
coming in,
attention?
what's going to differentiate us is our
Yeah.
ability to just be more likable to clients. Real human likability is like the game changer.
Yeah, exactly. The one that says only 55% have a case management software.
Yeah, that's on the
Did you
upcoming.
see
Yeah,
that? And it went down from 59%.
that was a case management or CRM.
No, it was case management.
Oh, I thought it was CRM. Oh wow, case management went down. So what is definition of case management? Is
Yeah.
that like forms and stuff or
That's like Filevine, Clio, DocketWise, the 8 a.m.,
e-immigration by Serenade, the sponsor for this
formally.
podcast?
Yeah, e-immigration, Serenade. Yeah, it
Oh, that's
was
surprising 'cause
on,
I caught the CRM not have like barely people having CRMs, but actually
that's
nowadays case
normal. A lot of
management's
people don't have a
yeah.
CRM. Yeah. Like even they didn't even track it in the last marketplace study. So if it's on page 17, the practice management software, that's a really good question. When I'm thinking practice management software, I'm thinking they mean case management software, not like Monday or Trello or Asana. But I'm pretty sure that's what they mean,
That's what they usually mean when
is
they
case
say it.
management software.
And it's an expense and people are hesitant about the costs sometimes. But that's surprising at this day and age, like especially with the new systems that allow e-filing through USCIS and uploading the S260s, like
Yeah.
that's such a time saver and sending their questionnaires to clients automatically inputs in our systems. That's so vital. But there's an aspect like the survey starts with like people are stressed out as ever as immigration lawyers, but this financially, there's immigration lawyers still making money. It seems like there's a growth happening. So finances shouldn't
You
necessarily
know,
be the biggest worry, I guess.
I think I might have misunderstood that. Sorry, because there's a line that says immigration case management. And they go from 59% to 70%. And then they have a practice management software from 59% to 55%. So
Ca
I think they separated it out.
They need to change the name of what they call
Anyway,
case management because it's a vague it could be a lot of different things when it comes to case management.
yeah, I think that's a little confusing. But anyway, okay, I hope that we went up to 70% instead of going down. The other thing is some of your case management software has practice management, project management software in it. So I could see why this can be confusing. Like even when they were talking about virtual assistants and virtual paralegals, I was getting a little confused with the terminology a little bit too
Yeah.
that they were using. So probably 70% of us are using immigration case management
And that's
programs.
probably
So
the key
that's
yeah.
good. It went up a little
And
bit.
there's so
Yeah,
many more
no, that's good.
companies coming. Every week I get a new company that says, "We're making the AI case management." I'm like, "Okay." And then next week, another one. It's been like the last 6 months, every week. So six to probably 24 companies have contacted me about their new AI system for case management. I'm like, how much business is there inevitably with this much competition coming that are creating AI systems? There's going to be like, it's like the dot-com boom in the or late 90s where everyone had a dot-com and then everything crashed and the winners stayed up. I think that's going to happen in the next 1 to 3 years in the immigration space. There's just way too many people getting in the space doing AI case management, practice management software. And it's a couple of existing people are going to win and maybe one or two new people, but that's it. It's not possible to keep this going, like all these new softwares that be coming out.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of little ones popping up that can do like one thing. I think what's going to happen is that they're going to get absorbed and there's going to be this race to be the leaders of a few companies that can do all things. But then it is a little bit uncomfortable when they try to absorb and streamline the process of what they buy and integrate into their system. We'll have to keep watching that. But I'm glad I figured this out because I was like, why are we using less case management software? But yeah, I think overall the trends are better, and I'm glad that they're checking for the CRM, client relationship management tool, because they weren't checking that before. The 28%, I think that sounds about right, even though I feel like we should be using it a lot more than others. What was another takeaway that
Okay,
you
page
there's a lot
50.
in here.
Yeah. And we'll see how much time we have.
Okay.
But page 50, it's about overhead revenue profitability. For the first time, they did this where they asked lawyers who had financial knowledge of their firm. So make sure it's not associate is not involved, it's the person
Oh,
involved.
uh-huh.
And then of them, a quarter of the response said they didn't know the ins and outs of their overhead and how much things are costing. They're not keeping track of it. And that was surprising because I spent last, like, maybe if you asked me 5 years ago, I would be one of those. But 5 years before, after that, I got QuickBooks and I'm like, I do my own bookkeeping. Like, I know every penny, everything now. And it's really eye opening because I'll see all this. I saw there's this podcast I don't listen as much, but it's called the Founders Podcast and it goes over the biographies of the top founders.
Mm,
And like the guy from Walmart, the
mhm.
guy who made Walmart, his big thing was like, you got to beat back the bureaucracy. Every month, there's gonna be more and more overhead that you say, okay, I'll spend $10 here, $5 here, but you got to keep reviewing it. And every year I'll go back and like, oh, I'm paying $30 a month on something I'm not using or $60 a month here. It doesn't sound like much 30 or 60, but then it's $600 a month potentially or 720. And you're not even using it, or maybe you can negotiate it or something like that. So I have an annual review now where I get all these to try to renegotiate. If they don't give it cheaper, I drop them or find alternative versions of that software. I constantly am changing our social media uploading software because they keep jacking the price. I'll go to a competitor that's even better. Or I study what their software is and I'll learn, oh, I was about to cancel them, but they have all this extra stuff I wasn't using. I could cancel another company and just keep this one. There's a bunch of stuff like that happens, but it's like a whole thing to be on top of that.
Oh, that's awesome because a lot of companies don't expect anybody. They want you to set it and forget it and keep taking your
Yeah.
money every month. And so that you're reviewing it and analyzing it and negotiating, that's awesome. It just takes time and making a note of it and building it into your schedule, or and also have maybe a team member help you too if that's possible. But that's awesome that you're doing that. I'm sure you're saving a lot of money from that.
Yeah, but it's not the most, but it's like say a little bit here and there. But what I found is just it forces you to learn the software you have. And it's amazing because
It's true.
I'll
It's
contact
true.
the companies and ask them, and they're like, "You're the first person who's ever asked us this," and no one's really using the software. They only use one aspect, but I'll study it, I'll get into it, and they get really
Yeah.
excited about it themselves. Oh, they want to talk about it a lot of times. Okay,
No,
next.
it's true. It's not that people don't like they say they don't like their case manager or their whatever program. It's really a lot of them just don't know how to use
Yeah,
it properly, and there's all those different features change.
too much
Okay, what's the
learning
next
involved,
thing?
then you're burned out. So on page 45,
Yeah.
something we've talked about a lot, but it's about billing. 84% people doing flat rate, 12% doing hourly, 4% doing a hybrid model. And we have a couple of friends we have a meeting that does hybrid models and hourly too. It's funny, you were saying like a lot of other practice areas want to go to flat rate, and the flat rate people are like, let's go hourly.
Yeah.
So it's like the grass is
No,
always greener.
it's hilarious. Everybody wants to do what they're not doing
Yeah.
because it's yeah, grass is always greener. Yeah, but I even did an experiment and went over to hourly for a lot, and it was a disaster. So I went back to flat,
It's
and
hard to appear
I
hourly.
really only
Yeah.
have I just do hourly for removal right now and for things that we absolutely don't know how much time it's gonna take. Ultimately, the more we keep track of our time and continue to automate and leverage technology to be as efficient as possible, then the more we can increase profitability, but that's a
Yeah.
whole other conversation.
Like for us, when it comes to keeping track of costs, I create a system and we've gotten pretty good at like when we get a case and we file it, keeping within the cost. But then I wasn't keeping track of
Mhm.
after we file it, how much extra work we do with calls and follow-ups, this and that. And then all of a sudden, like recently, I'm like, oh my God, we're doing just as much work on preparing the case to afterwards filing. It's a lot of it's waste time because the client just contacts us with stuff they can do on their own, it's unnecessary, or they run into police and we have a talk with them, stuff like that. These are stuff in our contract. We say we charge, but as courtesy, we'll talk with them or do some immigration research. But like, we got to charge on this. And if it's immigration in particular, we'll charge hourly now. If they need a joint sponsor, all of a sudden we'll
Mm.
have a flat rate. And the flat rate really doesn't cover the amount of work we need, but it's as a courtesy, we'll give a discount. But you got to charge on these stuff because it ends up, I'm realizing after filing, we're doing a huge amount of work that I wasn't even putting in my calculations. I was so hyper focused on keeping the filing itself efficient as possible.
Yeah, and you're right. That whole post filing could, in theory, take years.
Yeah.
So there could be a lot of work there and being aware of that. Like even the U visas, we're charging an annual maintenance fee if they want us to monitor the case
Yeah.
after that, knowing that it's going to take for a long time.
I'm just like freak. I have like one person
Uh,
every month emailing me every 2 weeks. Hey, what's going on with my case? I'm like, we did a FOIA request for you. I told you it's gonna take 3 months. Why don't you don't every week following? I'm like,
yeah.
here's the code, the number. Go check it out. Even though it's 2 minutes, it's still like you're thinking about something. You get an email like that, and you're just like, that's why lawyers do hourly billing, bill at 7 minutes or 6 minute increments because it might be a minute of work, but I got to reset my head and figure out what's going on here and drop everything I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, that switch tasking, moving from one thing to the next, I completely get it because then and I think they even say it could take you longer, like
Yeah.
10 or,
We're not
I don't know,
robots that could
15
just switch
minutes
off
to
from one thing to
transition.
another. Okay. So next one, page
Exactly.
7, paralegal. So they're saying
Okay.
the mean paralegal to
Okay.
lawyer ratio is now 2 to 1. And I've always wondered because there are firms and they're really good attorneys that I know have been on the show. They'll have like ratios of 8 to 1, 8 paralegals to 1 lawyer. There are firms
Uh-huh.
that have 50 paralegals to 1 lawyer, big ones that are famous too. And it always blew my mind. Is like, how does the lawyer know what's going on? How can you trust these paralegals to not to say untrustful, but it's like you got to watch out for the work. What has been your experience with ratios of paralegal? Right now, we're like 1 to 1 essentially at our firm, but I'm really conservative. So I'm too controlling. That's why my firm doesn't grow. What are your thoughts?
I think I remember in prior marketplace studies, now they're calling it the practice pulse, that there was some sweet spot with, I don't know, 3 to 5 to 1. And there was something about how many attorneys and how many legal assistants was like the sweet spot. Because even if you had a higher assistant to attorney ratio, but if you had too many attorneys and too many legal assistants, like there was this sort of this black hole where it wasn't as profitable. I have found that historically, the more assistants that I had, legal assistants to attorneys, I'm usually more profitable. Right now, I think when I saw this, I was doing the math. I think we're like around 4 assistants to 1, but that's not counting all the additional admin team. And I think if you were saying that 50 to 1, which seems like a lot, but I think what probably is that you have a lot of experienced legal assistants who can help monitor the
Yeah.
other assistants and build like a hierarchy structure. And that's what we have. We have a senior legal assistant who helps oversee the other assistants, but she doesn't know all areas of immigration. So we have different tiers of doing those reviews. But I was shocked by that because I thought it would have been higher. But
There is this issue of what people
I don't
call
know.
it too. Some people have legal assistants,
That's
paralegals,
true.
case
Sure.
managers, and
Yeah.
case managers are essentially paralegals, but they call them
Yeah.
case man. So the terminology becomes a trouble, like a difficult thing to track what the actual number is.
I agree with you on that. Honestly, I just use them interchangeably, but I know that you're probably not supposed to do that. But
Every time I
anyway.
ask what you define it as, they give me a definition. I'm like, what's a paralegal? No, we call it case manager or assistant. Okay.
Yeah.
One note on
Yeah.
page 8 is 70% of immigration lawyers were female, with 27% male and 3% identifying otherwise. So the
Hmm.
immigration bar has always been a female, big, powerful part of the bar that's like really run things are women, but I never knew it was 70%. Is that the percentage you have is 70%?
Looks like in 2022, it was 65% female, so it's grown. I think I've felt comfortable, I guess, that in this area of law that I felt like there was either half or
Yeah.
majority was female, so I never but when I go into other practice areas at conferences and it's a more male dominated, then I can
Yeah.
sense that pretty quickly. Yeah.
I guess I just don't notice it because I've
But
always been in this field. So you don't
yeah.
notice it. It just seems the norm. Yeah.
I don't really think about it much until I go to a conference of another practice
Yeah.
area, and I'm, like, the one immigration attorney there, and I'm all like, "Whoa, this is different." But, yeah, I guess that's what it is.
Okay. The next, we talk about
Um,
generative AI. It says,
I
generative
think
AI
that
tools are
on
used to some degree by 68% of respondents, but adoption by immigration lawyers lags behind the profession as a whole. Discussed at the beginning that this other survey has said differently, but who knows which one's right.
Yeah, no, I think that in closing, some of my other takeaways were just it said that those who used AI were more profitable. So I was like, okay, if that's inspiration for people to
Yeah.
get going on it, do it. The other thing I liked is that they were doing more talk about the succession planning, which wasn't, I think, as checked out, monitored in the prior reporting,
Very
and
important.
just the need to have a succession planning and just, yeah, baby boomers are retiring. More firms should focus on succession planning. Only 10% have a succession plan and only 6% have a disaster recovery plan. only 10% have a succession plan. We got to really work on that. That's
Did your book
yeah.
get into this a little bit at your
Yeah,
new
I
book?
do. I have a whole chapter on it. Yeah. And I'm talking about, and like really the whole point is you've got to plan in advance, whether it's you're selling your shares or you're taking on an associate or you're just
Hmm.
selling it for parts, whatever you can get. Like the sooner you can plan it out, the more you can get out of it. And also what a lot of people are concerned about is their staff and their clients. They want to make sure that they're taken care of.
Yeah.
And when I talk to a lot of people in that space, I've really cared about the succession planning a lot the last few years because I've seen those numbers and just watching people struggle through how to get value and making sure everybody lands on
Yeah.
their feet. And then I think the other thing was like retirement investing was another thing that they hadn't talked about a lot before. And I'm glad they put that in there and just bring that top of mind. And then I think the other thing I took away was that like I feel like everybody wants what they don't have, like the removal wants to do employment, the employment wants to do removal. And I don't know. It's just I hear that a lot when I consult with people too.
Yeah.
I want to expand in that. And I'm like, okay, like everybody. Anyway, no, I really commend Charity and Reed for putting this together and
Definitely
keeping it going over the
not
many
an easy
years.
task.
It's not. And I know it's at least it allows these conversations to be had with some data and some tracking over time. And I think it all makes us evaluate. So what are other people doing and how can we be better? And so I'm glad that we were able to unpack it a little bit today. And hopefully a lot of other people are checking it out. When I'm out speaking, I've been recommending it and saying, "Hey, go check it out and take a look and see what you can do and learn from
Yeah, I
it."
was waiting for us to have this conversation because I knew you have a lot of internal insight and something you think about a lot too. So I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it. A really good
Yeah.
episode between your travels. I learned a lot from there, and then going through this, it highlighted some key important things to have in our mind. So I'm sure anyone listening to this, was a really good episode. I'll try to publicize it in the Facebook groups too. It's really worth listening to.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this was a really good way to bring the report to life for those who might not have known it is out there or taken the time like us to review every page of the 70 pages.
But definitely worth doing. Just go to AILA, download it. Even the previous ones, it's good to do all of them so you just internally sense the growth of what's happening and kind of judge yourself where you fall within and everything. And if you're going the right direction, that the rest of the practice is going, at least staying with the herd, if you will. You're not falling behind or
Right.
something. See what other people are doing to not
Right.
fall behind. Awesome. Ruby, thanks so much for coming on again. I appreciate it. If you want to reach out to you, what's the best way they can do that?
I would say probably going to LinkedIn, Ruby Powers on LinkedIn. And I also have the Power Up Your Practice website. And we do have an AI toolkit that or tool, I don't know, whatever. You could basically a list of different AI tools that you can take from our Power Up Your Practice website. We also have that school community, the Power Hub, and the book Power Up Your Practice is on Amazon. I also want to do a little plug for the AILA Texas chapter conference, which is going to be in early December, December 3rd to 5th at the Secrets Playa Blanca Costa Mujeres.
That's gonna be
And we're
fun.
going to be
Yeah.
talking, yeah, about law practice management and wellness. Looking forward to that as well, helping organize that. But thanks, John, for having me. I love our conversations. We
Same
always
here.
go deep into something fun and nerdy, and I think worthwhile. So hopefully, other people took some nuggets from our conversation and unpacking the practice pulse and some of my conference hopping
Yeah,
this
living
fall.
vicariously through you. And also you have a podcast as well. It's
Oh
a
yeah,
larger
I
law
do.
firm
Yeah,
practice podcast. Yeah, you have that too. Yeah, so check
yeah,
that out.
yeah. Practice management topics called Power Up Your Practice.
Awesome. Thanks, Ruby. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Take care.
If you like this episode, follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, where we post the latest statistics, tips, and more. And stay tuned for more from the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast.